Welcome to the Wing Life Podcast, where we talk about wingfoiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy this great sport. All right, man, we're flying. This is good stuff. I got to start off with how nice that hair looks. Did you just recently get a haircut?
Yeah.
Smooth.
Need to look a bit younger and more sharp. Yeah.
Hey,
honestly, I never know how I'm gonna get out of it when I go to a hairdresser. I always walk in and I tell the guys, just do what you think looks good. And every time it's a different guy. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's always a surprise.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Actually, it's the neighbor. My neighbor just opened a hairdresser studio in Mauritius, and I felt like a kind of obliged to get my hair cut by him. So because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come. Like next time I'll need my haircut. I'm gonna come. Then I was like, one day I was like, okay, I got half an hour now. You have time? Yeah, man, I come in. So got the job done. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, looking smooth. All right, so your season just wrapped up. So stoked to talk about the tour this year on our first official Wingfoil World Tour episode. Kind of going to launch this little mini series for you guys because it's cool to talk to you. We had a great, awesome conversation last time when you were in Mauritius, and you had 2 new disciplines this year, which we're going to get into. But yeah, I'll let you take the floor for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, to recap a little bit before we dive into maybe the new disciplines, I think it's been obviously the biggest year of the tour so far. I mean, what we really felt this year, now all the COVID restriction kind of slowed down, and you can travel everywhere without many restrictions really, which really allowed us to grow the number of events by quite a bit. We nearly doubled it, I think, compared to last year. And also having new disciplines. So it's been a full-on busy year, a pretty exciting year. And we had a few of the, let's say, classic destinations on it, but also a couple of new ones. And one thing I have to say, what was interesting, I think in general, this year, I'm not the first one who says it. I don't know if it feels like it's a really strong El Nino year, and it really affected the weather situation globally in terms of the wind. Like a lot of places I've been traveling this year too have not been, as usual on both sides, meaning that places that are super known to be windy and regular were not that regular windy. And then places that are maybe not as consistent were freaking windy. So it's been an interesting one on this side. But what I wanted to say is that it really showed, for example, in a lot of the events that we were running this year, where conditions got a little bit more tricky, and borderline in a way, that the potential of wingfoiling still putting on an amazing show was very obvious. We've been in some events where I would be sure that a windsurf or a kite event would have not been running. And with wingfoiling, even though conditions were really not easy and gusty, and maybe not as wavy and all these things and light, you still have an amazing show and an amazing competition when it comes to wingfoiling. And that shows the potential, of the sport and why it's growing so much, because there's so much more destinations where you can run a competition, for example, in wingfoiling. And it might be a lot harder in the other, let's say, wind water sports. But yeah, we have been a pretty full-on season with 4 disciplines, and surf freestyle, let's say, taking the lead on the number of events, which had 7 events this year, only in that discipline. And then we had 6, I think, in surf slalom, which was also surf slalom, free-fly slalom, which was also really interesting development. I think the last time we talked already about this discipline, that this is the idea about it is really to kind of focus on the downwind aspect of the racing part. It's not the idea to have this classic boat racing style upwind, downwind course. So we're really trying to adapt to the elements that a sport kind of offers, and try to focus as much as we can on downwinding, especially in places where we had strong wind conditions like Gran Canaria, like Fuerteventura, And also open ocean. Mainly it is a format that works well in open ocean, where you can have long free fly legs, where you can really release the wing and do 500 or 1,000 meters without the wing, and just, reading the bumps and downwinding, which is getting more
Oh,
and more
awesome.
popular in the wing community. And this is where we want to push the format. But of course, we also run this format, or the format needs to work in flat water conditions as well. So then it adapts a bit to be a really compact course. For example, now in Brazil, at the last event, it was a very interesting spot, Cauípe in Brazil. Some people might know it. It's very known for Cauípe, the lagoon, where more or less it's supposed to be the best freestyle kite playground in the world. So it's a lagoon that's just
Oh yeah, I looked
behind the
that place
sandbank
up.
of the ocean, and has barracas, a lot of people around, and all the pro freestyle kiters, they go there to train. They love it. And then just across the sandbank, 50 meters, you have the ocean with like cross onshore to onshore conditions and waves, but really, let's say, not clean waves. But on a foil, they were still like very enjoyable and a really good show. People could ride them on pretty long. And but we decided in the end to, because the logistics on the water were also not so easy, but also because there was another factors that we wanted to try, that we were running the surf, the surf freestyle was on the ocean side, but the free fly slalom we put into the lagoon, and the lagoon was really small, so we had to have a super compact course. It kind of felt like running the competition in the indoor pool, and
Yeah.
and you could, like, the people, you were standing on the beach, like we didn't use any boats because it was not allowed in lagoon. So all the race stuff, our crew was working from land. The start line was basically on the land, the committee boat and the flags. So we were standing on the beach, and the guys and the girls would basically have the run towards the start line, blasting 3 meters away from the people on the beach watching, like along the stretch onto the start
Oh,
line,
nice.
and having a really, really short course that was super technical, with no long reaches. So speed was important, of course, but it was a lot about, obviously, the technique, with many jibes and tacks in it. So really, really technical course, and a great show because it was so close. You could see from the beach, you could see the small mistakes and the good moves that people were pulling off, and it felt, you were really like in the middle of the action as a spectator. And it's
Oh,
been
sweet. That would have been awesome.
it's been a pretty interesting one, I would say. In the whole year, we had all kind of conditions, from open ocean, Gran Canaria, 40 knots with 2 meters swell downwinding, to basically running races in a swimming pool in Cauípe, and then everything in between. So
Oh,
yeah,
amazing. So did you find, like we were talking a little bit about this before, but are you finding a lot more young guns, a lot younger, I guess, kids coming out and just absolutely ripping? Was that a big year for
yeah,
it?
yes, absolutely. I think this year you could really see that. I wouldn't say a new generation is taking over yet, but there is not only one or two, there is quite a few new faces that are young, and some of them, we still have an age limit in the world, which is 14 years. So you need to turn 14 in the year of the competition. And there's a couple of young ones that actually have the level to be in there and are younger than that. But there is now a real, a group that's getting bigger and bigger of these young grommets, I would say, still, that are coming now to the tour with a crazy talent, that have just started winging, the last 2 years or maybe 3 years. And that those guys, which we call the pioneers of the sport, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, were actually the first top guys that were pushing the sport, giving them already a hard time. And I don't think it's going to take long to take over, and this shows, how much progression there is in the sport. And obviously, I think these young kids, I mean, if you look at the freestyle side, Obviously, Chris McDonald is leading the pack, I would say, right now. And, he was upcoming talent already in the last 2 years, but this year it was his year. You could see he was well trained. He was so prepared on each event. As long as the conditions are, surf freestyle is a combination, which can be pure freestyle up to 50% freestyle and surfing. So obviously,
All right.
he's a main specialist also in the freestyle side, and most of the events were very freestyle orientated. He's the man to beat. Everybody knows that at the moment. And but also I have to say on the surfing and the wave discipline, I'm surprised, how many kids are doing really well, because that's normally, I would say, a discipline where definitely you need some experience. You need to know how to ride waves. And there is a good amount of young ones that are pushing in that discipline as well. Also on the free fly slalom side, but I think free fly slalom is probably still something. I know most of the kids are anyway more into the freestyle and like the jumps, but there are and the wave riding, so more the expression side. But also the free fly. I mean, a couple of those young ones are doing really well. Of course, in the end, free fly slalom is a race discipline, and experience and equipment tuning and all these things play a big role in this discipline. So that makes it maybe a little bit harder, let's say, for the young ones, to get on top that fast. But in the surf freestyle discipline, we can see that the most. The young generation is now on the move. And each event we saw new faces, that showed up, and some of them I've never heard before. And you're still like, whoa, who is this guy? And they would get top positions, It's still pretty, we have a lot of people that want to compete on tour. And to get into an event, it's only 28 people on the surf freestyle event. So they are coming in by ranking and video wildcards, and then normal wildcards. And obviously often, there are young ones that would deserve a wildcard by their level, but you just don't know about them. And for them, it's a bit harder to enter. It should be harder to enter. So once they get in and they can do one event, they collect some points, it makes it easier to enter the next one. And some of them now have established themselves pretty well on the tour, being in the top 20 world ranking, which makes them, offers them a spot already on all the events next year. And the difficult thing for a lot of them, obviously, many of them are still in school, and to be able to do 7 events in a year that are not all in the holidays, is not easy when you're 15 or 16 years old.
You're traveling with family and you got to organize that. Yeah, definitely.
So they can do 1 or 2. And I would say we had also the Junior World Championship, where everybody who was there felt like, man, the level was nothing lower than on the World Cup. The kids were all like, I mean, half of them are already in the World Cup, but they are, I think, now, if you look at the surf freestyle World Cups, more than 50% are under 20 years of those who are competing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So that means you're getting old if you hit 21.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still a couple, especially on the wave discipline, a couple older ones, but on the surf freestyle, I think probably the oldest one, it's Balt. Balt is,
all right,
I think, maybe 30 or and 20s, and and the rest, Max Robinson. I would say there's a few that are around 30, but more of them are more like 20 or younger.
Yeah, Max. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, so we're seeing a kind of a cool push, and there's also a whole bunch of Grom's training that haven't even started the tour yet. Like I'm talking about Caden Pritchard, Matt's son. Like we've seen him progress, and there's a whole bunch of other kids from around the world that are watching, and they're just practicing, waiting for their day, I guess. So that's going to be super exciting to see it. I can see that level going more and more and more, which I don't know, man, that's going to be pretty sweet to see, because it's been a while since we've had this kind of new excitement in the sport, and it's such a fun time to be a part of it all.
Absolutely. No. I can also see more and more global interest, in the tour. Obviously the majority of our riders are European because a lot of events are around here, but now, especially on the wave discipline, um, we get quite a few of the Maui boys now keen to get in the mix.
Ah, oh
You know,
yeah.
we had, Spencer came to Morocco, and then Cash Berzola is doing really well. I mean, if he would have participated in the first wave event, he would have had a shot at the world title, definitely. And a couple other ones, and already a few messaged me the last 1-2 months that they want to be next year on tour. A few of the Mali Franco and a couple of the other Maui kids or boys, let's say, which is great because I know there is a big scene, but let's say a couple of good guys from over there that we haven't had on tour yet, and they deserve to be there. So I'm looking forward to see them getting in the mix as well next year.
Oh yeah. No, I think that's gonna be pretty exciting. So you added two new disciplines this year. I'm stoked to talk about these two. So you added a pure surf, and then a big air. We're talking a little bit about big air before, but you want to start on surf, and then we'll head into big air.
Yeah, I mean the surf I think was a natural progression. I think I explained it in our last talk already that we started with the idea of the surf freestyle discipline in the beginning in 2020, combining freestyle and wave, depending on the conditions. So if it's flat, you do tricks. If it is surfing, like we had already in Morocco 2021, it can be pure surfing. And it can be a mix of both, in spots where you have waves and not only pure surf, it can be a combination of tricks and surfing. And but what happened is that obviously most of the events are more freestyle orientated than surfing orientated, and they all counted into the same ranking. So for guys, that there is plenty of guys that are really interested and really good in the surfing discipline, but they are not training freestyle on the level like those Groms that like go out every day and train their double and triple and quadruple rotations. So we
Crazy.
kind of lost those guys because they couldn't. There were not enough surfing events. If it would have balanced, it's another thing. But it's more freestyle orientated. It was a bit harder for them to stay on top of the rankings. So it wasn't that interesting anymore for them to be on those events. So it was a natural progression that we said, well, but this is a big, important part of the sport. There's many people that Wingfoil that purely surf. No, they don't jump.
Yeah,
They just ride
absolutely.
waves. And
Yeah.
and we need to cover those, and we need to have those representing. So yeah, we founded the pure surfing or called wave discipline. So we changed that the surf freestyle discipline this year was either still a mix with wave riding, if it allows, but it was never going to be more than 50% surfing. So it can be pure freestyle on flat water, like in Loikat or in Tarifa, for example. But it can also be, if you have waves, you can include up to 50% of the criteria being surf, which allows us, for example, like in Denmark, we had an event where the wind was getting really light, partly of the competition. That's what I was trying to explain at the beginning of our chat. Conditions were, let's say, 12 to 14, 15 knots. So not really strong, like to do proper tricks, but it had some waves, like head high onshore waves, and you could ride. So the
Okay.
criteria was just basically having one trick and one wave ride, and this allowed us to get a really exciting competition. Everybody was stoked about it, but it cannot get more wave riding than tricks. This is the rule at the moment in the rule book. So the surf freestyle discipline can be 50%, maximum 50% surfing or less, and the rest must be freestyle. And then the pure surf discipline, or wave discipline, it is called, is all about surfing. So you're not allowed to do any jumps. It's only wave riding, and you're also, this is important to know, not allowed to use the power of the wing for tricks on the wave, because we don't
Oh, that's
want
big.
to have Yeah, that's an important one. I think a lot of people don't see from the outside. And we had a lot of conversation with the riders about that by the end of the season in Morocco, if they want to continue this way. And because there was a lot of guys who were saying, but we should be allowed to use the wing. But obviously, if you do that, you need to be ready that people, will ride a wave and throw 720s or backflips on the wave and basically freestyle on the wave. And then, of course, it depends how much weight you give on the judging criteria to that. But to avoid that, this year we didn't allow to do any. You can do tricks on the wave, you can do airs, but you can only be on the neutral handle of the wing. So you can't use the power of the wing. So you can do airs, 360s, but the wing needs to be fully neutral. You cannot hold it on any of the power handles. Whereas in surf freestyle, you can. So in surf freestyle, if you ride a wave, you can ride a wave, you can do a backflip with the wing, keep going, riding the wave, because it's surf freestyle. So that's a big difference. Basically, surf in the wave discipline, you get out, you get on the wave, you release the wing, just hold him on the front handle, and you ride a wave. You can take the wing in your hand to make speed on the wave. For example, if you need to pass a section.
All right. Okay.
To be able to speed up, and you can bottom turn and you can top turn with it, because you see some guys that do like 4 slides, but you cannot do an air with the power of the wing. That's the rule. So yeah, so we started that wave discipline this year with 3 events, and we were saying we're only going to choose pure surfing spots. We're not going to run this discipline in a spot where there couldn't be waves, maybe, because then you cannot run a competition, no?
Yeah.
So this year we were running that in Ponta Preta, in Cabo Verde, in Rio, in Saquarema, which is the same spot where the WSL runs their surfing competition, the Rio Pro, and in Morocco, in Dakhla. So we had a right hand point break in Cape Verde, where that was the first event, and a lot of people were, I think, skeptical if the wingfoilers can actually handle that, because it's
Yeah, how was that? Because that's a steam train.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting, I have to say, and I was very positively surprised, and I think everybody was, because we had a lot of discussion. Obviously, Ponta Preta doesn't work all the time. So we were running that event together with the Kite World Tour. So it was a 12 days window, and we would run the kite and the wingfoil event in these 12 days, looking at the conditions. And it's not usually a spot that's working every day. So in case you don't get a west swell, you don't have any waves at the spot. So the alternative spot is on the other side of the island, which is called Kite Beach. A lot of people know it, which is a cross onshore and has waves all the time, but it's an onshore wing, not offshore. So it's not as good, by far not as good as Ponta Preta. And a lot of people were, I think, expecting that we're going to compete in Kite Beach, but we had swell for like 5 or 6 days out of the 12. So we had it not like huge pumping waves, but decent size, definitely overhead, Ponta Preta, and yeah, obviously it was working. So I told the riders, guys, you better go train there, because if the conditions are on, we're going to run in Ponta Preta. I mean, and there was a lot of riders pushing for it too. Said like, I mean, we don't make all the way to Cape Verde to compete in Kite Beach in Ponta Preta as well. This is what we want to ride. Like guys like Tituan and Cowley and Hugo and all the, the guys who love these kind of conditions.
Oh, the rippers. Yeah.
And, but I think that a lot of the competitors actually been out in Ponta Preta for the first time during the heat. They've never been out before. And so they were, some of them were training, because there was not much conditions before that too. They were there maybe a week or 2 before, but it hasn't been like, as I said, it's not working all the time. So they've been training in the other spots. So none of them have never been out there and didn't know what to expect. But after the first day of competition, and I didn't know what to expect either. I know that place for windsurfing and kite surfing. I've been out there myself on kite and also wing. And it's a really good wave. but obviously, when you make mistakes, it's very close. I mean, it's probably the best stadium in the world to run a wave competition, because you will
I've
sit on
heard.
the beach,
Yeah.
and the waves like kind of wrap around this point, and you're sitting on the rocks, and you will see guys riding the wave 30 meters in front of you, or even surfers getting barreled, and listening to the crowd screaming on the beach because it's that close. So,
Wow.
which also means if you make a mistake, you end up on the rocks. And I
Yeah.
know this place
your
from
gear.
windsurfing. Exactly, you get on the rocks, which is not a big deal in the end, but you can break equipment
Okay.
easily. And I was surprised, because knowing from windsurfing, like how many masts would get broken in the competition there, I thought it's going to be a similar carnage with the Wingfoil, but
Yeah.
actually not. It was because most of the time when you get washed in the wave, unless your wing doesn't explode, because it gets rolled in the wave, but most of the time that's not happening. The wing stays, compared to a windsurf sail, the wing stays on top of the wave. So the wave would like push onto the rocks, the wing floating on top of the white water, and then just sitting on the rocks, and the water pulls out, and someone in the rocks just takes the wing up, and that's it. So I think we had probably 30 people getting on the rocks, or 30 accidents of people getting on the rocks, and I would say maybe 5 with broken wings. So that's
wow.
not a
okay.
no.
How'd the foils
not,
last?
Yeah, the foils for sure. The foils get on the rocks, and that's the same like in Mauritius too. Obviously, you get some scratches. You don't break them completely, but you scratch them up, but they still work. So it's not a big deal. And of course, you need support. I mean, everybody was there. If somebody got on the rocks all the time, 5 people came in, helped. So yeah, it's been a really, and I think a lot of people were surprised, because I think a lot of people, kite surfers and windsurfers, say, "Oh, wingers, they can't handle this here." But when they saw the show that was put on, wow, it's a really, really good wave to ride. And every day, as the riders got used to the spot, they progressed. There was a 3 days competition, and and then we even had more time to run like a super session, and then we wanted to push the level a bit more, and we're asking for a best air super session. So we're just awarding the best air, because I know during the competition it was really surfing orientated. Everybody tried to get really radical lines, and then it pushed those guys to really try what kind of aerial maneuvers they can do in this kind of wave. And they can do a lot, 360s,
No way.
backflips.
Yeah.
No, it's been awesome. It's been a really interesting event, and I have to say, everybody was going for it. There was nobody holding back. And in the end, having Wesley being from Cape Verde taking the win was obviously the cherry on the cake, because the Cape Verdeans are it's the same in the kite. There's Ayrton and Macho and all the local guys. They are so proud of their own boys, and having Wesley winning in front of his friends and family was awesome. They were going crazy.
Oh, that would have been special for him.
Yeah. And it was good, to showcase the world what wave wigging can do, and that we don't need to be afraid of going into surfing waves,
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it was an eye opener for a lot of people, that suddenly like, okay, wigging is not only for mushy waves and onshore conditions. You can take this gear into proper surfing conditions, and that's the same wave where people get barrels on short boards, windsurf, doing the biggest aerials you have seen, and it's one of the best kite spots as well in the wave. And then after that, we went to the next event. So all the 3 events we did this year were combined with Kite World Cups. So we were running a GWA Kite World Cup together with a GWA Wingfoil Wave World Cup in all the 3 stops, with a longer window, being able to wait for the right conditions. So the second one we did was in Saquarema. It's an hour and a half outside of Rio de Janeiro, where probably the most, known surfing spot in Brazil, where WSL runs the Rio Pro. Same wave, exactly same spot where we went.
Oh, beautiful.
But this has been a little bit tricky, to be honest, for not only the wingers, also for the kiters. The spot is a pure surfing spot, so it's not very windy. And when swell hits, it's decent, and it's a beach break. So the beach break is heavy with a lot of current, really tricky to go out. And usually only like you get a really small window of wind in the afternoon. So we ended up looking for alternatives in the area, and we're then able to run also competition in Cabo Frio, which is like 2 hours further north from Saquarema, where the wind is way stronger. The waves are a bit smaller because the bay is more sheltered. Because in Saquarema, we had a couple of days with, decent 5-meter plus swell and maybe 10, 12 knots, which was really, really hard to get out. And not only for wingers, also for kites. So in Rio, we were running most of the competition. The first day we were running in Saquarema, but it was a bit smaller and it was fine. But we were pretty lucky with swell. We got in that window two swells, two decent swells with big waves, like that big that nobody was surfing anymore there. And
okay,
yeah, but we then ran the wing competition in Cabo Frio, which was wind from the left side, beach break as well, and really fun too. And and then the last event, where it was all about the World Championship, was in Morocco. And we have been in Morocco already in 2021. That time still with the surf freestyle discipline, but it was the first time we took the GWA there. And this is a real good place for foil. Like not only Wingfoil, also for surf foiling. What happens in Morocco most of the time, the wind is light in the morning, everybody's surf foiling, all the boys take their foils and their boards out and go prone foiling, and as soon as the wind kicks in, they pump their wings and get out on the wing. And it's a really long right-hander. It's longer than the one in Ponta Preta. It's maybe less powerful. It's a little bit softer wave, but it runs for like 300 to 400 meters long, the whole wave. So you can have insane, you have wave rides of over a minute on the wave. And this really showcases, I think, in terms of quality foil, it is one of the best waves you can do with comp. So it's a point break that runs into a bay, also very close to the beach, not like Ponta Preta, but similar close, but on a sandbank, no rocks, and so it's a lot safer. But the wind is very gusty, but it doesn't matter that much on a wing. You could just pick up the swell outside, be on the wing, release on the wave, release your wing, and then ride 400 meters all the way to the inside, jibe out, and get all the way back out and get the next one. So,
awesome!
Yeah, and we had a very interesting competition there too, because as I said, there were a couple of guys, and the first event, it was interesting. In Ponta Preta, I think a lot of people were still not sure about this wave discipline and what it's going to be like. But after Ponta Preta, we had in Rio already, so we have 24 places in the wave competition in per gender, okay, in the men's and in the 24 in the women's. And in the men's, we had 24 in Cabo Verde. We had probably 30 or 35 men that wanted to enter. In Ponta Preta, in Cabo Verde. In Rio, we had already, I think, 50 or 45. And in Morocco, we had 60.
Oh, wow. Okay.
60 guys that wanted to get in. So, plus the girls, talking only the guys. So there was a huge demand already on people that wanted to get on the competition at that spot. And we couldn't offer it to everybody. So there was a selection, as I explained, depending on video applications. So you can submit videos, and we have like 4 applications that are based only on videos. So for complete newcomers, we evaluate with our judging panel all the videos and then give spots according to their video applications. And and then in Cape Verde, in Morocco, the level was really high, and it was interesting to see, how much actually a lot of people started to train now for that, for that discipline. Also, guys that come from the surf freestyle, younger ones, they were super keen to get in there, and they did very, very well. And it came all down to, in the end, I think 2 or 3 guys that were still able to get the title. So it was Wesley that won the first event. It was Hugo, who didn't win any of the first 2 events, but he was on the podium both times. And we had also Clément Zero was still in the mix, I think, for the win. And then we had Malo and Cash that both were number 1 and 2 in the last events, but they both missed the first event for different reasons. So they didn't have enough points to get to the world champion title. They would have been in the mix for sure if they would have not missed the first event. And next year, they're not going to miss anything. They told me already because they want to go for it.
Yeah, they do.
But so in the end, it was a really tight competition and very exciting in the end. And Wesley took the first ever title on the men's side, and Muna on the Muna White in the women's division. I mean, she was winning in Cape Verde. She was second in Brazil because Nia won in Brazil, and then she took another win in Dafla in Morocco, and she claimed the women's title. But she also it was a close one with Nia too. So we ended the season in Morocco already in October. And and that was the first year of the surfing discipline. I think I see this is one of the disciplines that's going to grow the most, in my opinion. Still, you need the right conditions, so it's not something you can do everywhere like surf freestyle. But the interest and demand is similar in surf freestyle, and also in wave. We have a lot of people that want to push and compete now on the tour. And we want to keep it, as you said, we had a discussion with all our athletes about if we should adopt the concept. It's still not finalized yet, but I think it's going to be pretty similar like we had this year, to keep a pretty clear line between surf freestyle and wave. One is really pure surfing. The other one allows also the tricks on the wave and off the wave. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next year and to which places we're gonna go. I mean, the calendar is already out, but it's not everything set in stone. So there can still a couple of events be added, but also some of them drop out that you see on the calendar right now, because not all of them are confirmed yet. But it looks like, we have Cape Verde again, we have Morocco again. I don't know about Rio. It might be another spot in Brazil, but I wanted to have a wave event in Brazil as well. And there's a few more that I don't want to name right now because it's a bit too early. Keep it secret, but when they're going to pop up, they're going to be exciting.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was almost thinking there's some cool spots in Chile, but yeah.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'll keep that off. Oh, beautiful. All right. So how did Big Air go? Because I was watching some of the footage from that and looking at. I think one of the riders was saying they could potentially push to 15 meters with the right wind, right? Like, how was that to see that from shore and for the first time?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest experiment we tried this year on the World Tour. And I think it's great, that has, first of all, I want to say, I think it's great to have the athletes that are on tour now being the athletes that are on tour, because they are not afraid of anything. They are there. They want to push the sport. They want to see where the boundaries are. With all the ideas we throw at them, and we say, "Hey, let's do Big Air. Yeah, let's go for it." And everybody is fire, So the Big Air thing came out of the idea that we were partnering with Red Bull this year as a tour partner on all our events. But Red Bull also, we had a talk last year when we started that cooperation, and Red Bull wanted to do something special. So I told them, well, we could either consider running a big wave event or a Big Air event. Big wave is a bit early in my opinion, because I think that the sport still needs to develop a bit further to put on a big wave event that really puts on the show that this would really deserve. Meaning, like if we would, for example, schedule an event on a waiting a holding period in Nazaré or in Jaws, there's probably not enough people yet that will put on an amazing show to make it really worth pushing. There is a couple of guys, but obviously you want to have a really high level across all the athletes, and I think we still need a bit of time to develop that, but it's coming, I'm sure.
Whoa, that's going to be crazy.
So we said, well, big air. I mean, we know these guys, these boys, these girls, they jump pretty high. Nobody knows yet how high they actually go, but we should put something on. And they really liked it. And they have been already, Red Bull has been running the Red Bull Rockets Award in the windsurfing World Cup in Gran Canaria the past 2 years, which was more or less just crowning the biggest jump of the event, of the Windsurf World Cup event, of the wave event. And yeah, I'll be talking with Björn Dankerbeck, who is a legend in windsurfing, for those who know him.
Huge.
Who is the organizer of the Gran Canaria World Cup. And we've been talking last year with Björn and said, well, we should get a Wingfoil event to Gran Canaria. So he said, let's make it happen. And we were first talking only about the surf freestyle and free fly slalom event. But I said to Red Bull, well, if we do big air, there's only one place that comes to mind where we got to run this. And this is in Pozo, Gran Canaria. Because this is the only place that is nuking from morning till evening every day when you get there in the summertime. So, And Björn was pretty fired up about it too. Said like, yeah, let's do the big air. And so we adopted, we worked with Red Bull, that concept for the Red Bull Rocket, to adopt it for wingfoiling. But we didn't want to do just crown the biggest jump of the surf freestyle competition. And so, well, to really push that, we need to make a separate bigger event where it's all about jumping high. And so we worked out a concept with the riders saying, well, we don't want to, make you holding back because you need to land 2 technical tricks. We want to really focus on how high can you boost. And technicality must play a role, but it shouldn't be the main focus, because obviously when we were asked, and then we said, guys, do you think if you do 10, 50 meters jumps, then you're going to land your 1080s or backflips or double backflips or whatever rotations
they all said
you're
yes.
going to be training at that time? They all said yes, of course.
Of course.
if you really think. But then we're like, okay, maybe not. So we came up with defining the rule book for this new discipline being 80% of the judging criteria being height and 20% only technicality, which means if you are trying to boost really high with a straight jump or, maybe a grab or whatever, or a single rotation, you can still win over somebody who does a 720 but 3 meters lower than you. So this is we want to see you guys going big, because we have a freestyle discipline already.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And we want to have it really elite. So we did a qualification. We only allowed 18 people to enter the big air, and we said, okay, we want to choose, I think it was 8 guys out of the freestyle ranking, and then we want to make a qualifier. Then there were some wild cards, and then we did a qualifier before the event in Gran Canaria on the first day, and those who have the highest jumps there will also end it. And then we were partnering on the technology side with a Surfer app, which is a device. It's an app basically using your phone that has been developed. We've been using this on the Kite World Tour for the big air event. So all the riders are wearing a phone. some people might know the BOO device. So the BOO is like a device for kiters that can measure how high they go, but it's kind of a sensor that you put on your board. And then when you get back to the beach, you connect it with your phone and you can extract all the data. But as we were live streaming the event, we need a device where you can get the data live. So to make this work, you need to have a transmitter with a mobile data connection that can give you the data real time. No? So the Surfer app basically uses phone, and we've been working with those guys together now for 2 years on the bigger events in kiting. So we said we want to have it. We want to get you guys also for the wing. And we equipped everybody with a phone because the sensors in a phone are that accurate nowadays in the new phones that they work pretty well. And so everybody was wearing a phone as a sensor, and those data we've been transmitting real time to our live to Judge Tower and also the live stream. So you could follow the live stream, see a guy jumping, and a couple of seconds after you would see how high the jump was.
That helps.
Yeah, of course, right? Because it was really hard to, obviously, if somebody jumps maybe 100 meters in front of you and another one 300, who was higher? But having this data allowed the judges to really know, okay, this was now the highest jump we've seen so far, or not, how high the jumps really were. And yeah, so we've been, but obviously there you need the jump to be counting, you need to land it. And the highest jump that was clocked in, but that was landed was 11.9 meters on that competition. But the highest jump that was measured and not landed was 14.8. And yeah, that was decently high. That was 15 meters high. That was I think Benjamin May from Germany. But yeah, he said, guys, I didn't want to land. That was too high. I just didn't want to land. He let go the board before the landing. He said, I need to keep my knees. I didn't want to land. Yeah. But it was crazy. Yeah, no. And before there was the windsurf competition going, and the windsurf competition, they used the same device. And I think the highest was like about 10.8 or 10.9. So it was similar, but a meter less than the Wingfoiler. But it was really interesting to see also the technique, because a lot of them were never really before. And first of all, they didn't know how high they jump. And they also were not pushing for it really to see where can you go. And it was all about the height of the jump, but also the travel distance. So you would try to just not jump too much into the wind and then land like this. You would try to like come down and then really like fly down and land with a bit of speed.
Okay. All right. It's kind of like a curve, like that kind of thing. Accelerate, see if you can climb like an airplane and then come back down. All right.
So judges were looking at the height, but also the travel distance and the air time. And you could really see, obviously the guys were on big wings, it was bloody windy. I remember, I think on that day, so we're running 3 disciplines in 6 days, and the windiest day we choose for the big air, obviously, and it was 40, gusting 48 knots. We had a wind meter measuring that, so it was decently windy. And I mean, some guys like Benjamin May, he was on a 4.5 wing, in that kind of wind, because if you're holding a too small wing, it doesn't have enough lift. I mean, he's a big guy, but still, like he was on a 5.0, 4.5, like full on stacked. And
could we ask what brands are there? I guess we can talk about that after. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to do now, because I guess they're all going rigid, super tough new materials. I guess that's all going to help boost even higher.
Yeah, this is another thing that there was nobody using any bigger prototype, but I think next year we're going to do it again. I think that a couple of guys will show up with prototypes that have, let's say, better airtime than they're going to be made for this kind of discipline. I don't think the industry yet was thinking about building wings in that direction, but maybe now. We got already requests actually from other organizers this year. They said, hey, we want to have big air too. We want to also have a bigger event. Can we do that as well? But At the moment, I think we want to keep it really for the right spots, unless it's
that makes sense.
A spot with kickers and good wind. It doesn't make sense to do the discipline if they're, kickers are important too. So in Gran Canaria, what you have like 2-meter kickers, but they are not steep because you don't want a steep way for the wingfoil. You kind of want a flat jump so you can push the foil out, but still going to get that kick. And I think Cape Town could be a spot where we could run big air. Couple of other ones, but Gran Canaria is pretty ideal, I would say. The wind is steady, it is strong. You got this nice roll. If it's windy, you got 2-meter swell coming in. Not steep breaking waves, but soft ones that you can really take off clear. And it was a super interesting event. And I think when I saw the images, then after the big air day, and we were scrolling through the photos, it was like I posted a couple on my social media, just saying, "Hey, this is what we came for. This is what we all wanted to see." And they were like, "Man, this is Photoshop. It can't be real. You can't be hanging 12 meters in the air on a wing."
That's so cool to see.
And
that's so cool.
It was another great push, I think, this year for the sport. And it also it was probably the event with the biggest media coverage we had in the whole year, because big air, it was something even outside the wingfoil industry and the wingfoil community. This is something that catches people. Like if you have this on television and somebody will say, "What are these guys doing? They're hanging on a wing 12 meters in the air, no harness to it, nothing. If they just let it go, they just fall down. What are they doing?" So there was a lot of interest actually in reporting from that event, even from outside the wingfoil world. So
that's awesome.
It was substantially quite a bit more media coverage than we have seen on the other events this year because of the big air. So there's all the riders, it was in the beginning, before we went to Gran Canaria, it was also one of the things I wasn't sure. I know it's bloody windy there. I've been there many times with windsurfing, and I wasn't sure how the wingfoil is going to handle it and if the gear even going to work in that strong wind.
That's my question.
But I mean, they were, the guys were most of the time, even for downwind, as I explained, for the free fly slalom, it was amazing. It was the best spot we had this year for it. We had a free fly race. Guys would have a start line and then go around the buoy and then just go 700-800 meters without the wing, downwind on 40 knots or 35 knots wind from the back and just riding the waves all the way down.
That'd be
and
so
you could
fun.
really see who were the guys who know to do this very well, who know how to read the ocean and how to overtake without the power of the wing. So it's been one of the best events this year, definitely. I think Gran Canaria. And then when we left from Gran Canaria, the next stop was just the week after Fuerteventura, which is pretty windy too. It's been 30 knots every day as well. And they were all like, "Man, the wind is so light here. I don't know."
Compared to 50?
But I think most of the boys were riding 3.5 on Gran Canaria on the event, and the girls 2.5, some of them 2.0. But the girls were doing very well too. I remember, the day of the big air, we came in the morning to the beach. We were staying like half an hour away in a hotel, and we came in the morning, 9 in the morning to the beach. And usually in Gran Canaria, the wind accelerates throughout the day. And we arrived there and the water was flying, and I was like, "Man, I don't know if even the rescue jet ski can go out here. It's so windy already. It's already 50 knots now." And then Bart Müller rocked up. And I said, "Bart, you think you can go out there?" He was like, "Yeah, sure, I can. No problem. I'm going to go. I'm going to show you." So he grabbed like a 2.0 wing or 2.5 and he went out and he had no problem riding. I was like, well, if Bart can make it, then the skis must be able to do it as well. And it was a bit difficult to get out because the waves were breaking onto the rocks. But because you have that strong wind, you can really start very quick. It's been a really interesting one, and I was also stoked to see on the big air that we had a couple of new faces that you wouldn't expect, let's say, from the freestyle that were on top. Like, I mean, Benjamin was putting an amazing show on because he was, there was Tituan and Ratotti, who was the bigger world champion this year. They maybe clocked higher jumps, but Benjamin was going 10 meters and then rotating front flips, and landing it. So,
whoa,
he was the guy with the most commitment. Everybody agreed on it, even though he didn't win in the end because he didn't have that high jumps, but everybody was like, this guy's crazy.
Heck of a stalled forward then. When he climbs the peak, rotates, and then comes back down. Holy shit.
Now the show was insane. I'm still remembering it. It's definitely one of the highlights of the season in Gran Canaria. And I'm really looking forward to next year where bigger we're going to take it, because I think we're going to probably push it a bit more on the technical side, and we're going to see guys going maybe higher or similar height, but then training, also maneuvers in that big air event. So yeah, interesting year on the tour, definitely so far. That's all I can tell you about Great Canary at the moment, unless you have more questions.
No, that would have been a really exciting, well, just both of them to see, because surf is so huge around the world, right? Like everybody loves surf, and now to combine that with foiling, and we're seeing guys push and getting all these like barreling surf spots, and now we're starting to see foiling go in there. So stoked to see where that goes. And then the like Red Bull and jumping and that stuff and going for big air, like I can only imagine where that's going to go with the evolution of the technology that comes with it. Oh, that'd be so cool. So yeah, that must have been pretty fun. That was a fun year then.
No, absolutely. For me, it was great to watch, the development of the sport throughout the year, being part of it and being able to steer a little bit where the whole thing is going to go. But as I said before already, I'm just the one, kind of organizing it, but you need all these athletes that are ready to push and that have the motivation to bring the sport to the next level. And there's a lot of good input and ideas coming from the athletes as well. I think that, as we said, also in Kauipe explained in the free fly slalom event, we've been doing that in a really small area. And I think that maybe also indoor could be something we can see in the future, like not as a, regular thing, but you remember there was in indoor windsurfing World Cups. And I think, there is a boat show, the Düsseldorf boat show. I don't know if you know about it. It's basically the biggest boat show in the world, which has an action sports area. And they have a pool with wind machines. And I know Bart and a couple of the guys were testing wings already. The wind machines are not as good as we had back in the days in the windsurf indoor, because I've been participating in the windsurf indoor World Cup once in 2005, maybe. Pretty soon found out it's not for me because I was too heavy for that. But on the wingfoiling side, I think it should work amazingly well. Because, as I said, the wind doesn't need to be as consistent. Once you are flying on the foil, you don't need much power on the wing. So this is something I could imagine in the future we could see some indoor exhibitions happening too, which is a great show for people because you don't need a lot of space, no? And what we did in obviously in such a compact course like in Kauipe on the slalom, we reduced the number of participants on the court. So we were only running heats of 4 people at the same time. So you had only 4 people on the course at the same time because it was so narrow, not 8 or 10 or 12 like we do on the open ocean. And then it's a bit like a match racing, in sailing. So it's just like 2 guys advance, 2 guys are out. So it's pretty much, you need to finish top 2 or you're out. And then we did I think we did 5 rounds in total. Which I think also the equipment now is you would think already you have already that good equipment, but it's amazing to see where it's still going and how much more efficient foils and wings are taken nowadays. And a lot of our athletes are using prototypes in the competitions to test them against competitors, to the latest materials, and these all prototypes that might be in production sometime later. So there is always.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, because at the moment our equipment rules are open, so there is no restriction. The only restriction is that the wing needs to be inflatable, so you cannot use a pure rigid construction. It needs to be inflatable. But besides that, whatever material you use or what kind of handles you use, now also more and more people I see use a harness on the slalom. But the majority is still not. The majority is still without a harness because we don't, as I said, our formats are not really sailing like. So the course formats are not having long upwind races where a harness is an advantage. You need to do a lot of turns. You need to unhook a lot, hook in, hook out. So still a lot of our competitors prefer to go without a harness just to have it more simple.
Mm-hmm.
And
mainly hard handles or...
well. Yeah. The majority, I think you can see that now in general most of the wing brands are going this direction of using rigid handles, either longer ones or even like a boom, like you could see, especially on the freestyle side. I see now more and more wings having a boom because the latest development, you're still for sure focusing on now the handle pass tricks, like back mopes, where the guys basically pass the handle behind the back. So if you have a boom, it's much easier to catch it. So you can see now all these backflip and mopes. And on the freestyle side, for me, it was very exciting to see because last year a lot of people said, well, okay, now you see sideward rotation, 360s, 720s, 1080s, 1440s. They are training now, but not landed in competition yet. But next year going to be, I think. 1080s we saw already in competition. 1440 will be the next evolution, and I think next year they're going to be landed in competition as well. Yeah, getting close. I know some were landed, but not in that competition yet.
All right.
And backflips and front flips. But now it starts with all this one-handed combinations, one-handed backflips, the Palau backflip, and then the back mopes. And when it comes to handle passing, you just need to look at kiting. There is way more possibilities than just the back mope.
Oh, it's infinite. you ever think? Have you seen a double backy or a double forward yet?
Not landed, to be honest. I saw some attempts, and I think they're going to be landed soon. I think next year double backflips are doable. I mean, we see backflips into frontside threes already, and front flips into frontside threes in the air. Also, a new evolution this year are the combos, so double pops, basically backflip, landing and straight popping into another jump, or even triple combos, which
like figure skating.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, we are trying to only reward them well if they are linked well. If somebody does a backflip, rides out, pumps a few times, and jumps again, it's not a proper combo. A combo is a jump, land, straight pop into another jump, straight pop, for example.
All right, that makes sense.
In the first competition this year in France, we were allowing this, and we were very flexible in Leucart. And then everybody started there whoa, okay, hey, I have to train combos. Everybody needs to train combos. And then the next event, I think the next one was in Brest, the European Championship. And then we were already in the Canaries. Everybody had combos in the trick bag and done very well, So it was interesting to see this year. As soon as, somebody lands a trick, everybody's on it. So people try to do things secret, which is not easy nowadays with social media, because if you do, anybody can film with a phone and put it online. But I know if you really want to have an advantage, because we are also rewarding innovation tricks in the freestyle. So if you're landing a trick that has never been shown before, you get a multiplier factor to it. So you get, let's say, 6 points, but it's multiplied with a 1.25 factor. So it can, a 6 point can be up to a 7.8, for example, or 7.2. Because we were saying, it's just year 3. It cannot, the evolution cannot stop already. And we want to reward innovation. So if you land a new trick, you get rewarded extra points for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we got some cool stuff to look forward to. See what everybody's going to train before next year. That's pretty sweet. What else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? So we've talked about all your disciplines, coolest jumps and stuff that you've seen, big air.
Yeah, I have to say also, I want to mention definitely I think the girls level this year really took through the roof. Huh? If I see the girls this year they're new ones coming in, as well as on the guys' side, but the level of women has stepped up a lot. If you see now front flips, back flips, 720s on the women's side as well, one-handed back flips. So
awesome.
It's good. Yeah, it's really, really good. We will definitely with the tour, trying to expand in different directions. So we haven't planned to add a new discipline next year. I think adding 2 new disciplines this year is okay for now. Maybe for 25 well, let's see. Maybe we're gonna come up with something completely new when we think it's time for it. But for now, it's not planned to have another discipline, and keep it with the surf freestyle, the wave, free fly slalom, and the big air. But we want to probably get a few more events in every, and especially big air. Maybe we can have a second event and not only one. And on the wave, it's not that easy to find the right spots, but go to some really good spots on the wave side. Obviously the youth as well. We would also try to on the under the World Cup level, so on the continental level and on the qualifying series, we would like to see, open it up to more people to get into it, and especially markets that have not been. I hope that next year we will be able to do an event in China, that we will go to some places where we haven't, or continents where we haven't run a world tour as well. We still need to go to North America too.
Yeah, there's a couple spots here. They're tricky, but there are a couple spots. Yeah.
No, and it's a big market and a lot of good riders too.
Definitely.
That can be in there. So either it's being in Maui or in the Gorge or anywhere else in the US.
Definitely.
Or in Canada, there are opportunities, and we're looking forward to grow. But I would say, more than, I think, maybe growing the number of events on the world tour, it's more important to grow the quality. So we want to make the events bigger, maybe have more prize money, bigger media exposure. This year we were already live streaming, I would say half of the events maybe, but maybe we can improve this next year as well. Get more live streaming coverage, and also on the media distribution side. I think it's still a lot of people don't know about wingfoiling yet. People that are potentially candidates to get into it. But
it's a huge market.
To get in touch with them.
Yeah, it's a huge market, especially because people can now just hop on a SUP, and even though it's not crazy high performance, you can add a wing to the repertoire and do a whole bunch of different things. So I think including these 2 new disciplines will help attract, because it's a big wow factor, right? So especially with big air, you're always wanting to know, how high can you go? Surf too as well, because you can do that everywhere. Like I started surfing on some bigger stuff this year, and I'm just going straight. Like I had like overhead high stuff at the Great Lakes, and you're just ripping. You're like, okay, yeah, I could see how this would be super, so amazing, unbelievable. But there were spots that I could get into that we couldn't windsurf in because the wind was bad, the currents were crazy. But I could get in there wingfoiling. And then my neighbor, who's a 30-some-year vet in windsurfing, can windsurf in 50 knots. He's like, yeah, we couldn't win. You can wing there. So it's like, I think more and more and more as we expand, we're going to see this whole new continue. Everybody now is winging everywhere. So I don't know, man. It's pretty awesome to see. And especially getting a lot more young kids and getting them hooked on a sport that is so healthy for them. I think that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think we will on that side for sure. We'll see a lot more younger and even younger people, get into it. I think the youngest one we had this year was 12 years old in the World Cup, and he has the level to be there. And this is crazy to see, if somebody that young age can play on a maybe not yet win an event, but win in some heats and definitely be good enough to beat people that are in the World Cup.
Yeah.
There's not many sports where you have that.
No, not really at all. Not really at all.
Skateboarding, maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to be young until your knees and ankles blow out. But how's your riding been? Have you gotten out to chances to ride at all the events and work on some new tricks or?
No, actually, I haven't been. I've been on the water quite a bit this year at home in Mauritius.
Awesome.
And I enjoy the pure surf discipline. I mean, I'm still doing train jumps every now and then, but I'm definitely more into the wave riding part of it. And I've been riding some bigger days for sure in Mauritius on 1 eye and on 1 hour. But during the event, I wanted to get on the water so bad in Morocco because it's such a good wave to ride. But unfortunately, when the wind, when the competition was over, the wind kind of died. It was really light. And I had some gear from Wesley who has, a similar body size to me, because that's a bit of the challenge. Most of the gear that the boys ride are 40 kilos less than me. It's difficult for me to get out there if there is no wind. But Wesley is a big boy. We're nearly the same weight class. He's a little bit under me, but not much. But I couldn't have enough. I didn't have enough wind in the end to get out there. I've been on the water for one session now in Brazil. I brought my own gear to Brazil, and the problem is usually when I get to an event, I'm really full on working the whole day, morning till evening. And, that's what I'm there for. So if I get a session, it's fun, but it's not that I need to go. But in Brazil, I had a session once at the spot, and it was fun. But that's about it, I think. Like when I was traveling to the events. And in Fuerteventura, I wanted to get out in Gran Canaria, but we were running calm every day. And then the next day we had to fly to Fuerte. So I got on the water in Fuerteventura for 2 days, which was fun too. I think it's always nice to understand also from our side, our head judges, they get on the water too, obviously. They are a little less busy than myself on the event, so they can enjoy a bit more water time. But I think it's really important that on the crew side, you have people getting into the water and testing the spots to make an understanding actually of how challenging and what are the difficulties of a certain spot. And
yeah, that makes sense, because in essence, you are one big, like you're everybody's in that same community of working with that main goal, right? Your riders are there, and all the support staff, everybody around, they're just trying to grow the events, grow the sport. So it makes sense to bring in opinions from everybody, and then to understand as well from the judging perspective, like how difficult is this? And if you're a good rider and you're getting out in there, that all makes sense. It's improving the product.
Yeah, I mean, our judges are all good riders themselves. Obviously.
Oh yeah,
and we are hopefully also looking forward. I mean, I still hope all our athletes going to compete for a while, but I think, those first generation athletes, pros now, once they maybe want to stop from on the competitive side, will definitely try to get some of them on the team, because their experience and their input is crucial,
Yep.
So we have a lot of conversation, and I think this is the great thing about it. Everybody in our crew, starting from myself, all the judges, media crew, they are passionate water sport people, and they do this not only because they earn money for it, because they live it. They live this sport, and everybody wants, everybody is stoked to see the best action and be on the beach and shoot that photo of that guy doing the biggest jump or riding the biggest wave, or putting the biggest score, because it was just happening. And now that keeps us all driving. And as you said, we want to improve the product. And in the end, you need to have a lot of understanding. Also, on the organizers, we have organizers that are very passionate wingfoilers or water sport people from other water sports themselves, and they want to also have the best show. It's not about only making a business out of it, but really pushing it and being part of it. A lot of them, the motivation for them to be tour stop in the world tour is because they want to be one of the first places that have been on tour since the beginning of the sport.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Which are some places that have been in the windsurfing world tour and the kite surfing world tour, and now the wingfoiling. But there's a couple of new places too that see their chances now. They say, well, now wingfoiling, that's the right opportunity to jump on the train.
Oh yeah. What would you say to any young kids that are training and they're not sure if they should come and even try out?
To get on the tour?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if they're training at home and they're, to kind of compete. If they're not sure, they're raising their level on their own. They're not quite sure if they'd be good enough, or if they could. Maybe they're intimidated. But what could you say that would maybe convince them to give it a crack?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, all the young ones, the entry for most of them, as I said, is not that easy to get into a World Cup. It's not that anybody can just sign up and compete on the World Tour. So for most of the young kids, the first step is to get into the junior events. And we're running we haven't confirmed yet the spot for next year, but there will be again a youth world championship event and maybe also a continental championship event. So, and there will be just one, because a lot of the young kids, they can't travel all year. They can go to one event and they can go with their parents. So the feedback was that most kids would be able to follow 4 or 5 events in the year, but they can, plan their holidays around one and take their parents and go to that event. So I would suggest, come to the Junior World Cup and see where your level is standing. I think you don't need to be scared there. It's high level, but there's also people who come in for the first time. And then from there on, you will see if you're doing well, if you're ready to go to the World Cup. And if you have the chance to come to a World Cup and we offer you a place, then take it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you does the tour help with facilitating like travel and different spots for somebody brand new getting into it that doesn't know anything about it? Like, is there any guidance and help within the organization that helps people do that?
So we usually, this depends a bit on the organizer. There is normally a race notice. So if you want to be interested to go to an event, there's kind of a race notice, which is more or less the info sheet, which all gives you a lot of logistical infos as well. So in the race notice of an event, it says, okay, when does it happen? Where does it take place? What are the rules for the competition? What are the formats, the rules, prize money, point systems, blah, blah, blah. But also has logistical info in there. So depending on how much info we get from the organizer, we always try to put it on the race notice. Having, for example, partner hotels. So a lot of events have a partner hotel that offers a special rate. that they can have contacts already for airport transfer. So they know how they come to the airport. They can just contact the right number to get a lift to the airport or get to the event side. When it comes to food or anything that helps, any information, we are trying to pass this on to the riders so that they are not on their own getting the whole trip organized. They still need to organize it by themselves. We're not a travel agency, but we're trying to facilitate it for them to know where to go, what's the easiest way to get to the event, where's the closest airport. A lot of the event organizers also offer transfers. So they have their own car that can bring around, because sometimes it might be that you get to an airport with your board bags. It's not easy to find a taxi that can take your board bag. So they're offering a van that goes to the airport and picks up the athletes to bring them to the event side. So check out the race notice. And if you have more questions, you can just drop us an email, whatever. Where we can and where we can help, we will always do it, of course.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks, Tom. Man, this is pretty exciting episode talking about all this stuff. Is there anything else you want to mention about what's coming up in 2024? I know we had talked about a couple potential spots that we're going to leave under the radar for now, but I am curious as to what they are, because a few popped to mind where in the wave discipline that would be pretty sweet, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see until you guys finalize it.
Yeah, exactly. So we want, as I said, I don't want to,
no, it's fine.
Throw some spots out there and then they are not happening. So basically, you will see, if you look at the calendar, all the stops that are on there, they are either confirmed or with a to be confirmed status, which means they are not 100% signed and paid yet, because we only put an event on confirmed status once the contract and payments are done, or the first payments are done. But there is a few more in negotiation that at the moment I would not consider being a minimum 50-60% chance. As soon as an event gets to that status and looks realistic to happen, we will add him, also with enough time in advance, so that people can plan their schedule. But there is, I would say, 3, 4, 5 more that have a realistic potential chance to still get on the calendar. And there are also a couple, maybe that 1 or 2 that you see in the calendar that will not happen in the end, because we couldn't finalize everything. Okay. We want to definitely be a little bit more strict, because this year quite a few of the events got confirmed a bit late, and we want to be a bit more strict on that if certain deadlines are reached, and we need to tell them, well, either it's now confirmed or we have to cancel, because the riders also need to plan their year. And now a few of the riders who do all these disciplines, if you have 10, 11, 12 events a year, that's a lot. Basically your year is 4.
Because I'm on the website right now, and so you have, for the World Cup 2024, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So starting, they're all to be confirmed at this point, but we're looking at Sal and Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, France, Spain, Gran Canaria, so Fuerteventura in Spain, Rio, Dakhla, Tarifa, Serra, Brazil. Looking like that would be a pretty good season. Hope they get confirmed for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have some regular events, as I said, we have some events that we've been running, not only in the Wingfoil World Tour, that have been windsurfing or kite surfing events like Fuerteventura, like Gran Canaria. France is already signed. Actually, that's already confirmed.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
The Morocco event, Brazil, that they are maybe on the to be confirmed now, but I don't have a lot of doubt that they're not going to happen. So, because they've been happening every year, it's just a few details. And also maybe there could be a date changing a week or something. We need the ones in the second half of the year. There might be still some changes. It's more the newer ones where we try to get contracts signed early because we need to be sure that they're really going to happen. And
that makes sense.
I would say probably in January we should have a pretty good idea. Now it's the time the season is off, December. Where by the end of the year we want to get as much confirmation as possible for the 2024 season.
Starts back up in February.
Yeah, the first event is supposed to be pretty soon, and we're just waiting. This should be hopefully confirmed next week.
Okay.
Or this week.
Well, heck, Tom.
This week, I think.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks it was nice to catch up with you. I hadn't seen you in a year, or pretty much. So yeah, it's
absolutely
nice to chat. Happy you got that haircut. That pretty much made it.
As long as I still have hair. But
no, we're all hopeful.
But yeah, we can maybe plan to catch up sometime mid-season next year and see where we're standing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. No, that'd be super fun. And I know that even in our crew here out in Canada and a bunch, there's more and more people that are poking their noses in because our athletes are pushing development of gear and everybody's interested to seeing what's coming up with gear development. And I think these two brand new disciplines are really going to help as well because even in our crew here, everybody's pushing more and more and more into waves. So just trying to find out what can I get that's the snappiest, what gives me a bit of glide. Do I go HA? Do I go MA? Do I go with a pure surf? Kind of tails am I playing with? There's so many different combinations of stuff. And I think the tour is at the forefront because you guys are playing with, like, you have the top riders there that are all talking amongst themselves and everybody sees what they're riding. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see what happens in 2-4.
I myself, because you mentioned that, I'm often walking over the beach when you're running competition, have a look at the gear, what people are riding, because I'm interested myself. And it's still, still amazes me sometimes. I mean, it's getting more and more in a similar direction than 2 years ago, but it's still, quite different when you look at the details, like what people like to use in terms of, they say front wings, back wings, the combination, fuselage length, position of fuselages, mast positions. There is still, I would say, quite a different approach that different brands or athletes have, whatever they want to ride and what works for them and what are their preferences, obviously, depending on their styles now. So there are some guys that use, I would say, the same foil for nearly everything. And then you have some that have more specialized equipment for whatever use they have, For freestyle and certain waves, they use different ones, and some others use the same foils. And then obviously you can see that some guys come from different waves, so they use different wings. If you have a more powerful waves or less powerful waves, and it's an interesting time, especially on the wave side, on freestyle too. I would say what people are using with the wings. I think there was always a big discussion between, materials obviously are used. We have Alula, you have other materials that are making wings more efficient, but also on the aspect ratio. If you want to have wings, like I'm talking about the hand wings now, that have a lower aspect ratio, that makes it easier to rotate, what kind of handles you will use for freestyle, or having a higher aspect shape that is more efficient, and you might use a smaller size because it's more powerful.
For waves, have you seen a lot of them ride leashless, or like I know Ocean Rodeo came out with this new little strap system that you could pull a pin and it, because I know you can get caught in some white water and whatnot, and that wing just kind of gets dragged underwater, then you're getting...
Yeah, well, the thing is that in competition, if you lose the wing, it's game over. So
yeah, that's true.
you don't want this to happen, really. I mean, unless it's a really like in Cape Verde, I saw people, obviously they got washed and they just opened the leash because they knew the wing will be on the beach and somebody's going to catch it and you can take it back. But most of the time, if you get washed and you lose your wing, the heat is over. You know, you will not get a new one in time to be out there. So you don't want this to happen. Don't see really that many people releasing wings in the competition.
Okay. No. Anything new kind of tech-wise that you saw on the beach that kind of caught your guard? We don't need to highlight any companies or anything, but anything new that you're like, that's kind of cool that came out this year?
Well, I can see definitely more and more brands coming out with Alula models. It seems to be a material that's really improving the efficiency of the wings, but also similar materials to Alula. No, it's not only Alula. There's a couple of other ones, lighter and stiffer ones, that allow to use, let's say, thinner profiles also on the leading edge, because they get pumped harder, so they get the same rigidity on a narrower tube, and obviously have better aerodynamics. On the canopy materials, they're still experimenting a lot as well. You know, you saw quite a few prototypes of different companies of these transparent materials, like really thin plastic baggy style. But it's quite, it is. I tried a few of them myself and they feel super light, but they are, they have advantage and disadvantages. You know, you see some prototypes we have like a monofilm, bit like windsurfing sails, which on the racing side for sure have advantages, but then when you surf, they might not, be as neutral because they don't flag out that well, because you will always have wind flow on it. And then there are a couple brands I saw also working on the two-sided wings, on having a foil on the outside and on the inside. That where I see mainly a reason is in the racing part, but I can imagine that something like that will also be very efficient on big air. Having a double-sided wing that can have more air time and works better as an airplane wing.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Definitely.
If you think about some brands, some of the wing and kite brands are also into foil kites. No, they are producing foil kites or paragliders. So that technology comes from that. So basically, the wing can fill up with air on the inside. And just putting some ideas out there.
Yeah, we'll see what manufacturers keep pushing and see what new foils come out. Obviously, downwind's the trend now, but there'll be definitely more stuff coming in the future. So, no, I'll be stoked to talk to you, and I hope you enjoy a bit of downtime. You're at home for a little bit, or are you heading home for a bit?
Yeah, I'll be spending Christmas yet now in Europe. Christmas in the snow.
Oh,
and
hey!
I'll be I just came. I was in Qatar last week for a kite event, for the last event of the Kite World Tour. So I just came back from Qatar, and I'll be spending now Christmas, December in Europe, and then I'll be heading back to Mauritius in January. Get on the water myself and get ready for the new season. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, hey, I hope you enjoy the snow. It finally snowed here where I am right now, and we have some spots. Actually, we were looking at 25 knots on Friday, and I got a new Excel 6.5 dry lock. So I think I'll try for my last. I just threw up a story on Instagram there. I just threw up a story. It was pretty funny because I have full snow at my place, but it was 6 degrees and kind of, we like to say tropical, like 2 hours south. So we went and got we got a decent little surf day, but it's starting to get a bit chilly. But overall, still super lucky. Like it extends our season, and I'll wing over windsurf in colder water because I'm less likely to fall in with wingfoiling. So it extends my season a bit, and you can still surf and it still clears the mind. So yeah, I'm stoked for Friday. We'll see how it goes.
I actually have my gear that I had in Brazil with me here in Austria at the moment. I'm in Vienna right now. And
really?
we have a very active wingfoil scene here in Vienna that developed over the last years. You might have seen some pictures that are going in the middle of the city on the Danube River. On some of the days, you got 100 wings here on the river. It's crazy.
Cool.
And it's just, the river is just like, I used to windsurf there, 15 years ago, and it was always kind of crap. But now with wingfoiling, it is actually pretty fun. And just yesterday, one of my friends here called me and said, "Hey, we're gonna go," and it was snowing, and there are pictures of it, And I was like, "Man, maybe not this week, but if I'm really tempted next week, and if I need to get to the water, I might come. I just need to get a wetsuit because I only have a 3.2 with me. I don't think that's enough."
You'll be fine. You're accustomed to that cold weather in Mauritius. It'll be fine.
But why not? As you said, I think wingfoiling in cold weather is way more enjoyable than probably windsurfing because you're not touching the water that much.
Not as much, hopefully. No. Yeah, well, I think I fell twice in like a 40-minute session, and then you can decide how fancy you want to go, but you can keep it basic and just get a couple surfs in and come in. And yeah, no, they'll do wetsuits. I had a 10-year-old wetsuit, and I think that thing was due for a replacement. So this new suit's amazing, so I can't complain. But hey, Tom, thanks a lot, man, for taking the time out of your day today and for joining us on the show. And stoked to hear about 2024. And it was just awesome to talk about 23 and see how the season went for you. I'm glad it went well.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy to catch up with you again. And let's see when is the next time we can talk, and hopefully some exciting stuff happening to chat about.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Well, hey, everybody, I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.